Welcome to Two Down Territory. I'm Adam, joined with Jonathan, and today we're going to be previewing Week 7 of the NFL, as well as recapping Week 6 of the NFL. It should be a good time, considering how crazy the NFL is right now.
It's getting a little ridiculous.
It's getting out
What
of
I
hand.
landed on is that specifically I'm thinking about the AFC and the fact that for back-to-back years we had basically an identical playoff picture and division winners. I think the football gods had pent up energy and they're like, okay, that's enough. We have to make it look ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I think that there's a few things to point out. One thing that we talked about that I think is true, we just didn't really consider the impact of how right we would be, is this idea of parity within the NFL. Both of us, when we
Yes.
were doing our playoff brackets, while it was similar to the previous year, we both had sentiments about how, I guess you could say, close everything was when we're looking at both the NFC and the AFC. And I think that's really what it boils down to, is that compared to previous years, the amount of teams that are just terrible compared to the amount of teams that are kind of fun and exciting and any given Sunday could beat a contender, is those proportions are just different than we've seen in years past, favoring those exciting teams, which is leading to these crazy outcomes.
I No, you're 100% right. And I would say that that applies to about 90% of what's happening. At the same time, we're a third of the way into the season and the Colts stand alone atop
Yeah.
the AFC. So I mean there's certainly an aspect in which things are tighter than they were as we were talking about coming into this season. But just kind of at this midway, we're a third of the way into the season marker. There are still some results that have abjectly shocked me.
Yeah. And I will say, even when you look at like the advanced metrics, there are certain metrics that like just seem unsustainable. The first example that comes to mind is that Sam Darnold, according to like all the advanced metrics, like EPA, specifically like EPA per play, has been leading, right, the NFL, which is just a result you wouldn't expect. I think this week it kind of changed up a little bit when looking at those stats, but there are just certain things where a lot of specifically quarterbacks are just kind of playing out of their minds. Obviously, Daniel Jones is another example that comes to mind. Um, where yeah, it's really interesting.
Well, with Daniel Jones, I feel like I'm able to quantify it a little bit more because Daniel Jones is playing a type of football that I had seen him play before. It's just that now all of a sudden he's in a system that both supports him and, uh, as weird as it is, because you know, I think we would say Jonathan Taylor is not as good as Saquon Barkley, but because of the Colts offensive line and scheme, it's really as if he's playing with a running back who was better than what Saquon Barkley was able to do. That's not
Yeah,
a
no,
dig at
for real.
Saquon. It's just that, I mean, and, you know, I think we might talk about this a little bit at some point, but Jonathan Taylor is currently the relative runaway favorite early in the season for Offensive Player of the Year,
Yeah, no,
which
absolutely.
is wild.
And I think the biggest thing you just hit there, not to get too deep into this conversation, is the fact that even if it at the end of the season, Jonathan Taylor doesn't have the same box score type numbers that Saquon Barkley has. His relative efficiency compared to how that offense is run leads to a lot more sustainable drives. What I mean by that is that the Colts aren't entirely dependent upon the run in order to get their game going, and Jonathan Taylor doesn't have to have as many carries as he does, just based on his efficiency. And so there's a certain level of sustainability there that allows for a really, really productive offense. And like you says, really maximizes Daniel Jones. But kind of getting into it, what were some games just before we get into, because we're definitely going to talk about the primetime games. Were there any games that you saw in the slate in week 6 that just were really impactful to you that weren't part of those primetime games?
Uh, For me, what was interesting is that all of a sudden you blink and Carolina is
Yeah.
500 and they're going into this week preparing to play the 0-6 Jets, meaning that they're probably going to be above 500 7 games into the season, which I would not have predicted. But it's not simply that, it's that they've looked good while
Yeah.
doing it. That offense over the last few weeks has basically looked like a different offense. And uh, as someone who took a swing at Rico Dowdle in my fantasy draft, I am living large over these last couple of weeks
Yeah.
because he has played out of his mind. And I don't know if that's sustainable, but that's kind of as part of that specific game where, and I'll talk about the Cowboys side of it in a second, but for the Panthers are looking like if you were an optimist on them heading into the season, it's probably exactly what you would have expected, which is it's going to be a different guy every week or every 2 weeks. And if you get just that performance out of like a Rico Dowdle, you can win a game. And if you
Yeah.
stack enough of those up, you know, you're looking up at this schedule and you're saying, is there a world where Carolina could go 9-8 and that's good enough for the 7 seed in the NFC? And even if it isn't, even if they go 8-9 or they do go 9-8, but it's the 8 seed or whatever, all of a sudden, after 3 weeks into the season, already starting to have discussions about, oh, wow, they're going to have to move on from Bryce Young. That's kind of taken a complete backseat.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, speaking of Bryce Young, is that your point about how it's like every individual, like any given Sunday, it's any individual player that just kind of goes off and makes an impact. What's interesting about it is that Bryce Young has not really solidified him. Like, I don't think he's necessarily done enough in the first 6 weeks to be like, oh, he's clearly taken a step forward, which is
Yeah,
why we're
that's fair.
seeing this offensive, which is not, maybe Bryce Young, like maybe he is just doing enough in order to allow these weapons that they've accumulated to kind of eat. But it's just interesting. It's not what you would expect when you look at a team like the Panthers and the situation that they were in. Um, the thing that you would look to, right, is the number one overall pick quarterback that previous Heisman winner, you would say, like, we'll see development from him. And that's how this team is going to grow when they're finding other ways to win. Not that Bryce Young is playing bad, but he's definitely not playing up to that standard.
No, yeah, to be clear, it's not all of a sudden as if we're saying this is a franchise guy, but it's at least the seat in just a matter of a few weeks is at worst barely lukewarm, when after the
Yeah,
first 3 weeks, you would have just markedly called it scalding hot if you were just
yeah, no,
projecting to the end of the year.
absolutely.
On the flip side of it, though, uh, Dak Prescott has, and I would like to say, although all of the craziness that has happened going all the way back, pre Micah Parsons trade for the Cowboys, in all of the hecticness that has taken place between when I predicted what the Cowboys season would look at like and remove record from the equation, I feel entirely vindicated about
Yeah,
Dak
for
Prescott.
sure. For sure.
Purely, I mean, the defense is worse than I could have imagined, but Dak Prescott is doing this with a CD Lamb whose leg is shattered, and he's still looking like he's basically copying the Joe Burrow script from
I was
last season.
literally just about to say, I haven't heard a lot of, maybe I'm sure people have, but I haven't heard a lot of people say the Cowboys are so similar to the Bengals last year, right? Where you have this quarterback who's just playing out of his mind. He's having an MVP caliber season, but chances are he's not going to get that type of recognition simply because the defense is a walking lick. I mean, the Panthers or the Cowboys defense at this point is like a get right game for any offense. And the Panthers game was a perfect example of that, where like if you're an offense that's struggling, if there's one team that you want to play, it's that Cowboys defense, because they're gonna instill some confidence in those players that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one that would be the Ravens, but I still feel like the Cowboys are better because the Ravens still just have this intangible aura of their defense, even though it's been really bad this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cowboys are unfortunately for them a team that your offense looks forward to playing them. It's like, oh, we're gonna get to have some fun out there this
Yeah, like
week.
let's start dialing up the trick plays. Let's start
But it's a
getting things
complete
going.
bipolar locker room for Dallas Cowboys opponents this season because that defense is going, how do we slow Dak Prescott down?
Yeah,
And that's the way it's been for pretty much every game this season. Uh yeah. So that's a tough because in a hypothetical world where the Cowboys win that game, all of a sudden, they're 3-2-1 with the tie. They're above 500. And then you can kind of, if they win that game, they're above 500 and they can kind of use the tie as like a psychological edge. Like, oh, we tied these guys, but that's a win. Now, by losing this game to Carolina, the tie is like a psychological damage. It's like,
yeah,
oh man, like we could be 500 right now, but we aren't. And so the trajectory of the Cowboys season, uh, really, that's kind of why I want to highlight this game is that could be a turning point in the Cowboys season that kind of
hmm
marks it as that's the type of year it's going to be. Dak Prescott looks great, but it isn't enough. And this team is a type of team that's going to finish 8-9, and people are going to forget about uh, a season that'll probably go down as Dak Prescott's a top 2 season of his career, just
for
purely
sure.
in the box score.
Yeah. Well, we can move on. I'm kind of looking at some of these other games. Something to note is just that Seattle. Congratulations, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba is playing out of his mind right now. I saw this thing that was basically like if he keeps this up, like he's going to set the receiving yard record, which obviously I'm sure there's going to be some sort of return, specifically with Sam Darnold's play. Return to the mean, but still impressive nonetheless, especially off of coming off of a Jaguars win that was really impressive against the Chiefs. Uh,
Yeah, and we weren't able to record last week, but we'll get to where our point totals are in here in a bit. This was a game that we split on because we still did do our predictions, even though we didn't record. And I took Seattle in this game. I'm not going to take some massive victory lap, but I kind of saw an outcome similar to this, which
mhm.
is that Jacksonville's coming off of the high of home win, planting the flag, prime time. We beat the Chiefs, and they just looked sluggish.
Mhm.
Mainly that offense, as it has looked most of the season. And if your offense is sluggish against a Mike McDonald run
I
defense,
mean,
you're probably not going to win.
well, and also I think I want to say Seattle had like 7 sacks, so that doesn't help.
Oh, no, not at all.
For sure. Next, the Ravens, their injuries list is ridiculous. I'm sure that'll return a little bit. One thing I will say about the Ravens, I saw on Twitter, I forgot where I saw it, but they were talking about the Ravens schedule, and the Ravens were one of the few teams that was highlighted to have the first few weeks of the season be like a top 5 highest strength of schedule based on how the season has come out. And then
Uh-huh.
the last few like the last games of the season is a bottom 10 schedule. Some of the other teams that included were the Bengals. I want to say maybe even the Chiefs were part of that group. But the post was highlighting, however, the Colts, because the Colts in this first beginning 6 games have played, it turns out they have played a bottom 5 schedule, which is turning into a top 10 schedule in terms of strength. And so that's going to be interesting to see how they respond coming off, being the sole team in the AFC with 5 wins.
I yeah, we can open that kick the Colts discussion down the road just a second. For a discussion on the Ravens, though, I understand that the schedule is going to get easier, but you're looking at let's just assume for the sake of the argument which isn't a ridiculous assumption, that you need 10-7 to be able to make the playoffs. 9-8 isn't going to cut it, especially with some of the tiebreakers that the Ravens have already lost this season. So even if they were 9-8, they might
Mhm.
lose some of those tiebreakers. That means that they can only lose 2 games the rest of this season.
Yeah,
They have to go
basically.
9-2 the rest of the year, so you can look game to game and the individual matchups, but when you take that 5,000-foot view, unfortunately, I I mean, we're looking at a world in which it's not impossible that the Ravens are all but mathematically eliminated halfway through the season.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. The biggest chance that the Ravens have is the fall of the Bengals. The Browns look like how they look, and the Ravens have only played one divisional game. My point being
Yes.
that because like they could win that division with 9 wins by sweeping the Steelers and the Bengals, because chances are the Steelers and one of those teams. The thing is though, is like obviously that is dependent upon the Steelers, kind of having a crazy drop off after starting the season 4-1, which I don't think is out of the realm of
The Steelers
possibility.
the Steelers do that all the time. That's kind
Yeah,
of the
so like if
Steelers of
there's
the
one
last
team that you would
decade.
want your season to be dependent upon in terms of a drop off at the end of the season, it's the team that's done that every year for the past 10 years, like you just said. So there's still a chance, is all I'm saying. The fact that all of their, divisional games are in the later half of the season is really impactful for them.
Yeah, there's also still a world just because of the way that you win a division in the NFL. There's also a world in which the Ravens could go undefeated in the AFC North and
And
still
still, yeah,
miss the playoffs.
yeah, absolutely.
Like, but no, you're not wrong. That's an important factor to be added in. Their best path in is to think about we need to win every single division game, which
Yeah,
isn't off the table.
no, it's not. Okay. But anyway, so I think that's all the games that I think are really impactful.
Mhm.
Outside of the primetime game. So we can start off Eagles at Giants. Giants get the
Yeah.
big dub.
Giants get the big dub. I think that um if we look at let's look at the Giants side of that. Because on
Okay,
this show, I believe in the value of you talk about the winner first, not the
sure.
loser. From the Giants side of things, the biggest takeaway and positive, I would say a positive. There may be some Giants fans out there who would actually call it a negative. This probably guarantees that the current Giants coaching and leadership regime will be there in 2026.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a game like this, planting the flag, Jackson Dart, Cam Scattaboo. I mean, I maybe like, could the Giants lose every other game for the rest of the season? Sure, but that's not really going to happen. And it's more so just an indicator that, oh, there's a vision with this young offensive core, and they're doing this without Malik Neighbors,
Hmm.
where uh, this is going to at least have the chance to ferment in New York, which
Hmm.
is the first time in a long time that the Giants have had a season like that. Not a season where the rebuild goes well. I'm just saying this is a season in which it's a rebuild year, and you have the hope that the rebuild is going in the right direction.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I think that it's also I guess the best adjective I could use is that it's just fun if you're a
Hmm.
Giants fan.
Yeah. And I think the greatest part about it is that the Giants have clearly found an identity that is
Yeah.
complementary on both the offensive and the defensive side of things. I think that what the Giants have shown is that their draft classes as of late have pointed to a vision that is finally coming to fruition. So like just looking at the individual stats in this game, Cam Scattaboo had 19 rushes. He had
The crayon eater
5.16
himself.
yards per carry and a success rate of 52.6%, which is in the 80th percentile. They absolutely dominated the angle on top of 3 touchdowns. Those are more of the advanced metrics. They absolutely dominated the Eagles within the run game. And the fact that they're without their best wide receiver, who, depending on who you ask, is a top 10 wide receiver within the NFL, and they're still able to produce at this level is absolutely incredible. Jackson Dart is not, he has some game in there too when it comes to the running game. There
Mhm.
is, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but there is a certain level that I with Jackson Dart that I worry a bit about the sustainability of him just like diving headfirst at defenders, but we'll get there when we get there.
I don't disagree with that, but that feels like one of those it's not good, but you would rather be in a position where you have to coach the kid off a ledge than
Yeah,
coach the kid closer to the ledge.
true, true. True. Very, very true. But yeah, like overall, I think the Giants were incredible. And then on defense, right? Just like establishing just building off the strength of that defensive line has just been incredible. And the moves that they've made, right? In order to get there, drafting Kayvon Thibodeau, drafting Abdul Carter, and then having Dexter Lawrence already there, bringing in Brian Burns. Like all of those moves has led to just this incredible defensive line that is paying dividends and was especially paying dividends in this game.
Yeah, I mean it also just makes the Chiefs win look a lot better.
Yeah, true.
No. In all seriousness, but now we can look to the flip side and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Um, I think that we should start off with this. Zadarius Smith retires out of nowhere. What is that
That was
about?
crazy. I forgot about, yeah, that's insane. That was insane.
And I get that when I say we, I guess but there are people like me out there I know. We don't get to do this because it all just magically gets to go away because the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, which of all the ways to make it magically disappear, sure. That locker room is a mess and
Yeah.
has consistently been a mess. AJ Brown is going to get traded.
You think so? You think that's for sure?
He's done everything short of demand it. And
True.
I think that I also don't even think that that's necessarily a bad thing for the Eagles
Yeah.
because you could get insane value for him right now mid-season. But even removing that from the table, I'm buying stock in that take, to be clear. But even removing that, the Eagles are probably still going to win the NFC East this year. It'll be close. I think that they'll be in a scrap with the Commanders.
Mhm.
But we have seen regimes fall apart really fast in Philadelphia, even after winning Super Bowls. We saw it with Doug Peterson.
We did.
And so my point is just looking out at the rest of this season. I almost don't know what to do with Philadelphia because they're probably still going to win 11 games. But so much of what made their season work last year was obviously their defense, which has taken a drop off. Maybe not as big of a drop off as I was predicting, but still noticeable.
Mhm. Yeah.
Plus, the explosiveness of their offense that typically manifested in Saquon. And I don't know if you have advanced metrics on this. I'm kind
I
of
do.
putting you on the spot here, but the explosiveness of that offense compared to last season is almost like non-existent. At least
Yeah.
that's what it feels like from an eye test.
Yeah, so here it is. So the explosive percentage is 10.5%. The negative play percentage is 15.8%. That's really impactful. But the biggest problem, it's almost like they are relying too much on the explosiveness
They're
of last
trying to
season.
replicate last
They're trying
season.
to
That's what it
replicate
looks
it
like.
without doing the groundwork of establishing the run and the middle of the field. So here are some numbers
Yeah.
for you, specifically talking about the rushing stats on offense. Saquon Barkley last week had 12 carries for 4.83 yards per carry, a rush EPA of negative 0.18, and a success percentage of 41.7. Landon Dickerson is hurt, and the Giants did take advantage of that mismatch. But still, when you have a back like Landon or like Saquon Barkley in an offensive line like they do, the fact that they're not leaning on the run more is absolutely malpractice. Here's the other big numbers for you. For with Philadelphia's offense in the middle of the field, specifically like the 5 to 20 yard range, their middle of the field rate is 9.1%, which is in the ninth percentile. Their middle of the field EPA per pass is negative 0.51%, or negative 0.51, which is in the 12th percentile. So they are not passing in the middle of the field, which if you look at how they were able to operate in previous years, a lot of times that's where AJ Brown kind of ate. It's not what he's known for, but he was able to add that. Those just like middle of the field crossing routes where he was then able to take it for a bunch of yards. And what they're basically saying is we're going to use the deep pass to establish the run, which makes absolutely zero sense. It's as if they beat the Chiefs the way they did in the Super Bowl, and this new offensive coordinator came in and said, why didn't we just do that all year? Without providing any context to the reason why they won games last year, because their defense was incredible. You said this before, they had a generational secondary in terms of the play that they got, especially from their rookies. And then finally, they were able to establish a run game that was so dominant, it made the passing game effortless. But if you don't have those things in place, you have to win like most teams win. Middle of the field, short passes, get the ball out quickly. You can't rely on the magic of the Jalen Hurts running game. Like that's just not sustainable. And so, yeah, like when you look at the advanced metrics, it's pretty clear to see that they are failing at the basics. And even if they excel, which they kind of are, at the deep down the field plays and the long explosive runs, you're not going to get enough of those against a good defense to be able to win these games. And that's why they lost to the Giants. Their offense looked great. They had explosive plays. They're also doing really good in terms of short fieldage plays. So, passes, between the line of scrimmage and 5 yards, but everything between 5 yards and 20 yards, they are not only not attacking it enough, but they're completely inefficient when they're attacking it. And we're seeing how that's corresponding as far as, or what that's leading to. As far as their defense, I think the biggest thing here is the pieces that they lost. Those were really good pieces. There's a reason why they lost them in free agency and they weren't able to pay them. You talked about that before the season even started. But secondly, the variability of the secondary and the cornerback position is biting them in the butt right now.
It is. The last thing we can say about this game is I don't really know what it means. I just know it's not good, but I'm not going to say anything beyond it. There seems to be a very noticeable correlation between Jalen Hurts having a really good box score and the Eagles losing.
Yeah, I know why.
Which is odd.
I know
why.
I
know, like it's and that's not even it's not necessarily an anti-Jalen Hurts sentiment, but it really isn't, to be clear. Well, it somewhat is. I wouldn't say it's majority on him. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's really hard.
Here's what's happening. When you are a team that, because like I said before, like they are getting the long plays.
And to be clear, that's not just this year. That's like his entire career.
Right. Like they are, like Jalen Hurts looks for the deep ball. And if he doesn't get it, he runs. That's like his whole thing throughout his entire career into college, from the college into the NFL. He looks for the deep shot. If it's not there, he runs the ball. The problem is that so he's actually very effective at that. Like he's very good at it, and they have the weapons to make him pay. So the box
Well,
score looks
and
great.
it's not even necessarily about the weapons. What really allows that style to work is the offensive line,
Yeah,
because they
absolutely.
can
Providing
give
time.
him the time to wait for the deep ball, and the defense spreads out because he gets to hold on to the ball for 5 seconds, and then he can find a running lane if nothing's
Yeah,
there. It
absolutely.
works. It does work.
The problem is that it doesn't work to create sustainable offensive drives against good defenses. And when your defense is getting like when you are getting so dominated in the time of possession game, because that's what the Giants did, right? They were clearly outmatched from a roster perspective. So what they do, they shortened the game essentially. They said that we're going to spend the entire first quarter driving down the field. That
Yes.
shortens the game. It makes it more difficult for Philadelphia, and they need to be responding with the run game, with the middle of the field. The last thing I'll say about Philadelphia is that this isn't the first time in recent history that we've seen Philadelphia, for no reason at all, just decide to not do the things it takes to win. And then their locker room explodes, and there's nothing really you can do to recover
Yeah,
except for just let the season end.
the only thing that you can do to patch it up is just keep winning. And that's kind of what they did last year. But
Mhm.
that locker room tension, if you remember, we don't need to rehash this because we could go, into a rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
The locker room tension from last season never ended. They just kind of won the Super Bowl, and then we were like, "Oh, okay."
Cool.
Which, again, of all of the things that you can do to push something to the side, winning the Super Bowl is the best
Probably the
one.
best. Yeah, no, absolutely.
It
No,
might
it's
not even just in the National Football League, maybe in life, just winning a Super Bowl in the United States of America might be the best thing you could do to just make bad things go away.
yeah, true.
But um
Yeah,
yeah,
no. It's just another example because like even and again, I we keep trying to move on, but things keep popping into my mind. But think about the 2023-24 season where they started off hot and then imploded. Like what
uh-huh.
happened? It wasn't because of a personnel change. It was because of like their offense philosophically just did not take the steps that they needed in order to succeed.
Yep.
What that led to was locker room tension because they weren't winning. And that locker room tension spiraled to a point where basically the season just had to end. And so I'm saying that to say there's a certain level to this of where it's like the offensive troubles that they're having are not explainable. Like it really is just like dumb calls. Like the offensive coordinator, the offense as a whole, the people making the decisions are doing stupid things and are not maximizing their players. And if they don't get a handle on this quick, it's going to spiral like it did before. And the truth is that the emotions of Nick Sirianni are a benefit when you're winning, but are looking like a really, really negative when you're losing.
He needs to shave his head again. That might
Yeah.
be the only way.
That's the only option. Okay, well,
Well,
we can
we
move
can
on.
move on to the next primetime game chronologically, which was my Kansas City Chiefs versus
Yeah.
the Detroit Lions. Um, we start with the winners here. I'll keep this pretty simple. This was a great win. The Chiefs offense, uh, from an eye test standpoint, I would probably say that the way the offense looked against the Ravens was, slightly better than this game, but actually from an advanced metrics standpoint, in many of the cases, I was reading articles saying this is like the best that the Chiefs offense has played since like 2023. I
Yeah.
mean, we scored touchdowns on 4 of our first 8 drives, and b- part of it is tainted a little bit by uh um, the Chiefs offense also, because of the Lions opening drive that took literally 10 minutes, like, it just didn't have that much time on the field.
Mhm.
The Lions dominated the time of possession game for the first half, and so the Chiefs had to maximize the time that they had on the field, and this was proof to me that this offense is now officially stable enough to, even when they're losing time of possession, even when the defense is on its heels, I have a confidence in this offense that I
Mhm.
haven't had in probably about a year and a half, to where, oh, we get the ball now. The defense just had a tough possession. We're just going to go score a touchdown. And it's that simple. And I
Mhm.
get that that's very broad strokes, but psychologically, I think that Chiefs aura is back. And I think that that is all of a sudden going to be back in defensive coordinators' minds of our opponents.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is about the Chiefs is that they, to be clear, they were playing a very injured secondary, and I'm not
Yeah.
trying to say that to say like the Lions, should have won, because they shouldn't have. I think that the reason why the Chiefs won, like they would have won regardless, simply because I think that the scheme that the Lions deployed, um, just created too many mismatches of linebackers on these speedy receivers to really account for it. They played a very soft zone in order to minimize the speed issues, and because of the secondary injuries. The one big stat that I'll point out in this game, so in late down scenarios, the Chiefs' success rate was 61.5% compared to the Detroit offense. In late down scenarios, their success rate was 35.7%. And it's as simple as that, right? Detroit on late downs was not successful. Kansas City was. And, to get into the X's and O's of it, we've talked about this, but Patrick Mahomes has really, and it's actually, people are not going to appreciate it just because who Patrick Mahomes is and the teams that he plays for and everything like that. But the truth is that when you look at the growth that Patrick Mahomes has taken throughout his career, not only is it impressive, but it's objectively enjoyable to watch. To see this guy come out of college and be this, big playmaker, this magician, right? This guy that just comes out there and does the craziest things to get the ball down the field, to now he's this pocket passer, this guy who's mobile within the pocket and is able to extend plays, but he's not doing anything crazy, right? He's making correct decisions. He's getting the ball out of his hands fast, and he's letting his playmakers make plays. And he's
Yeah.
not only did he make that change, but he went from the best at one archetype to quarterback to the best at another archetype of quarterback that are completely different. And
Yeah.
so people are going to hate on him, but you have to understand that not only did he completely change his game as the team has changed, but he's also done it and then he's also been the best at two separate types of quarterback play, which is so
No,
impressive. And it's that
and
efficiency. The last thing I'll say is it's that efficiency that has led to the Chiefs looking so good on offense.
yes, and the one thing I will say is that Mahomes, you are right. For 95% of the game, he has completely changed his archetype, and it's really enjoyable to watch. He still does have the ability
Yes,
to
he
pull out
does.
those magical plays. I mean, I think the craziest one of this season that comes to mind is the Giants Sunday Night Football game, where he's literally falling sideways and does like a hook shot over his head, like
Yeah.
lob 10 yards down the field, wide open. He also had, I went back and rewound it multiple times to double check. They never once discussed it on the broadcast, which is like all the times that you'll talk about Collinsworth glazing Mahomes, which he does, let's be clear, and
Yeah.
it's entertaining. But
Maybe
they
for
never
you.
once they never once identified it. I can't even remember what possession it was, but I think it was the first possession of the second half where the Chiefs had a nice methodical drive down the season. And Mahomes did a full no look pass.
Yeah.
I confirmed it. Like, it just a complete, almost to the opposite side of his body, no look pass. I was like, oh, like he has turned himself into an archetypal. Uh, it's not Brady. That's the easy comparison to make. It actually looks a lot like Drew Brees
Hmm.
in
That's what I was about
terms
to
of the
say.
way that he plays. But he can also just have the ability to, in one moment, to extend a drive. He can make plays that almost no other guy in history has been able to make. And I get like, I'm not even putting that into the context of the GOAT argument. My point is just looking at a specific football game, but not even the game, a drive. This will get really
Yeah.
basic here. Football is a game of drives. The point of an offense on football is to get into the end zone. But how do you do that? You have to extend drives because you're going to get maybe one. I know. What do you count it? What do you count as an explosive play? 10 yards, 15 yards?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but so when I say explosive, I don't mean that. I mean like a 50-yard play. You're going to get maybe one of those a game. But in order to get to the end zone, you have to pick up multiple first downs. And the difference between that on a drive is oftentimes one play. And
Hmm.
if you have a guy who has the ability to make a specific type of play that almost no quarterback in the history of the game just objectively has been able to do consistently, that is the difference and the minutia of winning a game and losing a game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. The one I'm just looking at these stats. I didn't notice this, but in this game, listen to this. Kansas City's offense, so their middle of the field passing rate was 3.3%, which is in the first percentile. But listen to this. Their middle of the field EPA per pass was a 1.58, which is in the 99th percentile. So that means on 3% of passes, they passed in the middle of the field. But every time they did, it was effective to the tune of almost 1.6 points added to their score.
Uh,
Just
I'm trying to think about how
insane.
that worked. Is that purely
I
I
have
think a
no
lot of
idea. I
I'm trying
just
to think of
noticed
the
that.
play specifically. I'm gonna go out on a limb right now. I
Wait,
could be
yeah.
completely wrong. I'm fairly certain that if to attribute that to one player, obviously Mahomes is the one throwing the ball. That's Juju right there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I love, and we can use this as a little jumping off point to the altercation after the game. We don't
Yeah,
have to
that
get
was so
that much
funny.
into it. But like, I get people love to hate on Juju, and guess what? I used to hate on Juju. It was really fun when I'm a young person and Juju had his
Yeah.
antics on the Steelers. And you remember the play, I'm sure you loved it, where
Dude,
the
Von Bell.
Bengals blow
Just
him up.
Von Bell, dude, just came out of nowhere.
That was maybe one of the most satisfying moments in NFL history. But people don't understand Juju has like objectively changed as a person and is like a great teammate and a
Yeah,
fantastic contributor to
true.
the Chiefs. Juju is an integral part of this offense. And some of the middle of the field catches that he's able to make and then streak up the field for another 15, 20 yards after the catch, that doesn't shock me that a statistic is like that. I'm guessing
Yeah.
that the majority of those are Juju Smith-Schuster catches.
Yeah. The other thing too that's impactful from this offense, talking about the efficiency, is the fact that their negative percent rate is 3.3%, which is in the 90 or the 99th percentile as well. So Andy Reid
They
just put
don't
together
give up. The
the,
offensive line has looked incredible. And guess
the
what? I we've had some disagreements about this, but it's not nothing that until last night when specifically Joshua Smith had to miss the game
yeah, because of personal
purely for
reasons. Yeah.
family reasons. He wasn't even at Kansas City. But that was the first time this season that the same five haven't started, and it was just Wanya Moore stepping in,
He
and it
did
was the other
incredible.
same four, and
He
he did
was
incredible.
incredible.
Yeah, I mean, really, the one play of the night, which is not even a like it wasn't even the offensive line. The Aiden Hutchinson strip sack when
Yeah.
poor Noah Gray,
Yeah.
our second tight end, gets lined up against him, and Aiden Hutchinson with one hand is just driving him like a sled 10 yards into the backfield. He's literally pushing a man with one hand 10 yards back, and
Incredible.
with the other hand smacks the ball out. Aiden Hutchinson is a beast. But other than that, they got no pressure the whole night.
Yeah, and again, I really think a lot of that is here's the reason why. When your middle of the field rate is at 3.3%, there's really two options. Either you are Russell Wilson throwing the moon ball every other play, or you're setting up your offense in a really smart, methodical way by using screens, by using out routes, by using slants, and taking advantage of the middle of the field. Like I said, taking advantage of the soft coverage that the Lions gave. And that's exactly what they did. And, we can talk about the offensive line. I personally think that one of the, like, what Andy Reid is the model example of how to take pressure off of an offensive line. And I will say, this is not to say that they're playing bad. This is to say that they are playing good, but it's not like they've changed anything inherently besides the offense
Yes.
that they're running. And
Yes.
that's what that's what, the addition of Xavier Worthy allows them to do. I guess one thing I will say though, just to, because I was doom and gloom about their offensive line. Andy Reid has 100%, I've talked about this before, proven me wrong in terms of how effective, right? And Patrick Mahomes, how effective an offensive scheme can be at mitigating some troubles on the offensive line. The other thing I'll say is that Rondell Moore? Oh man, I'm forgetting his name.
Wanya Moore.
Wanye Moore. He was incredible. I think that going forward, the Chiefs have to have conversations about starting him at right tackle over Jawan Taylor. But
I'm not completely dismissing that. That's all I'll say for now. But we
yeah,
can go ahead and
we can move on.
well, I guess we really made that all about the Chiefs and not about
We
the
did.
Lions, but that's actually a compliment to the Lions. They'll be fine. They
Yeah.
kind of just got
Exactly.
Chiefsed at Arrowhead. I'm not going to hold that against a team.
It's both
They'll
of
be
us
fine.
picked the Chiefs in that game. My biggest reasoning was simply because they were missing their secondary. Like, I think it would have been close, and they were just like if they played again, I see that being a very close game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that, especially if it was like in Detroit, like I don't know. I just feel like that was a perfect example of a really close matchup where I think the Chiefs just had certain advantages that led to
I will say,
game that
I
looked
didn't
worse than it was.
love how inefficient their offense was, but
True.
it's a road environment against a defense that has, compared to how decently concerned I was after week 1 of this season, has completely stabilized and looked fine, minus pass rush. The Chiefs' pass rush has been subpar, to say the least, this season, but the linebacking core in the secondary has more than made up for it, so it's been okay to this
100%.
point.
100%.
But we can move on to what is not going to go down because of the Eagles kind of manhandling the Giants manhandling the Eagles, was not the biggest upset of this week, but was probably one of the weirder ones, which is Buffalo versus Atlanta. Now, I picked Buffalo or the Atlanta to cover the spread in this game, but I did not foresee a victory, to be clear. Why don't you give me your thoughts on this game and talk about winners first here? What'd you see from Atlanta?
I mean, I think one thing you said about Atlanta that's really come to be true, I can't believe how right you've been about it, is just like Atlanta is the type of team to lose 30-0 to the Falcons or to the Panthers and then beat the Bills. But the one thing I'll say is that, like, and again, I know we're trying to talk about the Falcons, but their run game is what we thought that their run game could be. Bijan Robinson was incredible. He's solidifying himself as, clearly a top 3 at worst running back within the NFL. This season, probably second behind Jonathan Taylor. You could probably say he's first, though. The point I'm
now,
making,
the only reason that Jonathan Taylor is ahead of them in the Offensive Player of the Year odds, because Bijan's right behind him, is because of the Colts' record.
Yeah,
If the
exactly.
record was flipped, Bijan would be the leader by a mile. He's played it out of his mind.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's just one of those things where it's like the Atlanta Falcons were incredibly balanced. They had 250 passing yards, 210 rushing yards. They also had 0 turnovers, where the Bills had 2 turnovers. And Bijan Robinson was incredible. I mean, he had 170 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, and 68 receiving yards. Drake London was everything you wanted. He had 158 receiving yards and a touchdown. And then the biggest thing on defense was just their ability to, and I need to look at the game again and look more at it, but it just seemed like there was a mixture of both the Falcons being able to stop the run game, but then more the Bills just like unwillingness to give the ball to James Cook that just like totally limited their offense and really,
I don't get
was
it
was
either
really
as
impactful.
someone who has been very high on James Cook both last season and in this offseason, and thinking that he was the X factor that opened up the
Well, and he
ability for
has
Josh
been, to be
Allen to get
clear.
his first MVP. Yes. Um, Looking at the Bills side of things, I don't know. Were you watching? Yeah, I know you were watching, but I didn't know how closely you were watching the broadcast last week of the Bills Patriots game, and they kept on bringing up this theme, and they had the graphic of everybody eats for Buffalo now, and they were talking about since uh, Stephon Diggs has left,
Yeah,
there's been so many more guys. This is one of those games where you get the downside of everybody eats,
100%.
which is,
100%.
let me pull up the stats right here. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven different guys caught a ball last night, but no one had more than 3 receptions.
Hmm.
The, it, Josh Allen is fantastic. Now, he threw a couple interceptions, so I'm not taking him off the hook for this game at all. But there is a level in which, like, yes, in principle, if you're talking broad terms, is it nice to have a diverse portfolio of guys that can catch the ball? 100%. But if you're leading wide receivers for the night are Joshua Palmer catching 2 balls, and he's your leading wide receiver. And then Khalil Shakir's getting 3 catches for 33 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, Keon Coleman catches 3 balls for 11 yards. Of every person that caught a ball, he's tied for the most receptions, and yet he had the least amount of receiving yards. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're becoming that diverse, if you're not able to pair it with a run game, you're going to get results on this. And when you doubly pair that with a couple of turnovers, you lose the turnover battle in the game, then there's not many teams in the league that you're going to beat. I wouldn't really worry about this game too much if it wasn't for the fact that it's coming off of a loss against your division rival. The fact that you have back-to-back losses, like, you would think that the Bills would come out ready to go and eager to win. And I don't want to analyze like the mentally toughness aspect, because what do I know at the end of the day? But that's certainly not the way that you would want your team to come out after losing to a division rival, and all of a sudden you're looking up a third of the way into
You're
the
the second.
season,
You're the second seed
and you're the
in your own
second in your
division.
division.
Yeah.
I mean, my Patriots take has never been more alive, and
Which
we're
is
going to
funny
talk
because
about
like
that.
the last time we recorded, you
Yeah, the
were
last time we
all doom and gloom
recorded,
about them.
I was doing gloom. All of a sudden, they've won back-to-back weeks, and they're atop the AFC East.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't. The Bills, to me, if I still had to bet money, they're probably going to end up being the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
But
so.
my confidence is much more shaken.
It's definitely dwindling. So here a few things about that. The first one is it is generally good to have A game where you're passing to like seven. Like I could remember the year that Mahomes won his second MVP, where he had like 5,000 passing yards. He had like 300 yards a game. Uh, that their offense was very similar in terms of like 9 players would just catch the ball on any given Sunday. The difference is that on top of that, Travis Kelce would get like 100 yards. You know what I mean? Or like
Yeah.
there would be that one standout receiver that still like dominated. And so it's like, yeah, that's cool, but there still has to be that number one receiver that's dominating. The thing I'll say about Keon Coleman is that, both of us are really high on Keon Coleman, not just coming out of college, but also even going into this year. What I've realized about Keon Coleman is that he would be an incredible wide receiver too. Not just in terms of his skill, because this isn't about his skill, it's about his style of play. Like he is not the type of guy that's going to get, 10 receptions any game or even like 5 receptions. Like he's the type of guy very similar to how Gabe Davis played, where he'd get like 3 receptions a game, but all of them were just like crazy deep bombs. It's actually kind of similar to how I think, obviously with the CeeDee Lamb injury, it's a little bit different, but George Pickens going to Dallas and how that's just opened things up when you make him the wide receiver too. It's just incredibly impactful. But then the other thing that I'll say about the Bills again is just like this idea and this concept. And I know you said like, ooh, what do I know? I think it's worth note that of just like a not so mentally tough team. I think that
Yeah.
this concept translates in the playoffs specifically. We're kind of seeing it here. It's just something not to make draw any conclusions from, but simply just to note is what I'll say. It's just something to note.
It's not nothing. You file
It's not
it away
nothing.
in the back of your head because it's probably going to come back at some point this season.
Yeah. And then again, do want to talk about the Falcons. Shout out to them, right? Incredible game, incredible job. Their stars balled out. Yeah, and they got the upset they needed. Speaking of another upset, though, you want to move on to Commanders Bears? Because I'd say that's an upset.
It definitely was an upset that I predicted. I benefited from this game was really fun to watch.
It was
because it was an ugly, disgusting,
it was so gross,
rainy, muddy game in Washington D.C. and it's the stadium's actually in Maryland. That just gave me nostalgia for my time out in that DMV area. That's football weather. That's Northeast, East Coast football right there. And it was fun. It was the difference in this game, let's be clear. I'm not gonna take away from Chicago because, and once who forced the turnovers. The difference of this game is 3 turnovers to 0 turnovers. When you win the turnover margin by 3 and you need a walk-off field goal to win, it's a great win for the Bears. But the Bears aren't playing above anything that I expected them to be at.
Exactly.
They basically just played exactly what I thought they would be this season, and maybe even a little bit worse than what you thought they would be this season. But then when you get 3 turnovers, it's like, okay, well, that's enough to win the game.
Yeah.
And so, but a win is a win is a win for a team like Chicago. Every single win that the Chicago Bears get this season is a tick of confidence for Caleb Williams and this new Ben Johnson regime that is invaluable. So, in one sense, I'm saying I'm adding in all of these excuses, but at the other side of things, I'm saying, doesn't matter. You got the win. Fantastic. That's all you want if you're Chicago, is pile up as many wins as you can this season, which sounds reductive. That's what every team wants to do. But it doesn't matter. If the Chiefs won a game the way that Chicago just won, people would be talking about how the sky is falling and the Chiefs, they're so lucky. These 1-possession games, they win the turnover margin by 3. Chicago doesn't, and it's like, fantastic. Good for them.
No, exactly. This is definitely an example. This is the perfect example of how a team that is worse can win a football game. Right? Like dumb turnovers, stupid.
Yeah.
Like both teams made an incredible amount of mistakes. The question was just like, who will make more mistakes? And at the end of the day, Washington made more mistakes. Shout out to the Bears. Shout out to Ben Johnson. The one thing I'll say about this game is that the Bears prior to Ben Johnson, this is a game where they would not only make all the mistakes and played the way they did, but they would lose in like horrendous, like comical fashion, where now they're winning these types of games. And I think that just shows a culture shift that shouldn't be overlooked. As far as the Commanders go, it's Jaden Daniels' first game back. The offense is still getting into things. Like they were clearly the better team again when you watch the game. It was just a question of like, then just like every 5 minutes they were doing something stupid and gave the Bears signs of life. um that's really all I have to say. Caleb Williams is still doing Caleb Williams things. Every once in a while he'll play in the system and then 2 seconds later he'll do something pretty moronic. So
Well,
that's what you
I
expect.
want a couple just random fun little things. You want to guess how many first downs the Bears had?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I have no idea. Like
10.
okay, I was gonna say like 12.
Okay. You want to know how many the Commanders had?
Oh, is it something like 17, 18?
22.
Dude,
That's
this
what
is why
turnovers will do to you,
are
folks.
important. This is why
It
turnovers are
is.
important.
And I was also going to note that DeAndre Swift, I'm almost bringing this up to like preemptively go against him, which I don't really mean. He ended up with over, I think it was like 107 yards or something like that. He had a good game. Now, like over a third of those yards came on like the final game winning drive
True.
because they were running him and then getting into field position. And then he has the one breakaway 20-yard run to get them. But Caleb Williams was relatively efficient. He accumulated yards. He did what you wanted. The offense stalled out way too many times. I do almost wonder, and I'd be curious, I don't know enough about, so I'm not saying anything about this, but if it's almost a little bit hard for an offense to deal with your defense forcing a mass amount of turnovers where it's like, oh, all of a sudden we're back out on the field and it's like, we're into this. And it's like, 3 downs, 3 and out, boom, we're done. Like, it's almost kind of like,
Yeah.
if you're kind of on the sideline, you're scripting like, what are we going to do this next drive? And then all of a sudden you're thrown
Well,
back onto the field. I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just, I also, the rain and the weather was a factor. We can't remove that from the equation. It
yeah, true.
1,000% was. It was a not one of the craziest weather games by far in NFL history, but it objectively was football weather.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Bears scored off all three of the turnovers. So I don't really know how impactful it was in this game.
That's
I don't
fair.
know. It's something
I guess I
interesting
wasn't
to
thinking
think
about
about
that.
though. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. Someone do a study on that.
Yeah.
Someone do a study on that and figure that out and get back to us. Anyway, so that's pretty much all the games. Recapping week 6 of the NFL. Next, we're going to be doing a little bit of a preview, and we'll quickly run through every game of week 7, do our picks, play our game. Jonathan, before you explain our point system and where we're at there, why don't you just do a little refresher of the rules of the point system and just give some context into how this works?
Yes. So every single week, we predict every game in the NFL. That's the baseline. It's pretty simple if you get your pick right, and it's purely just winners for the main portion of it. If you get the prediction right, you get a point. If you don't, 0 points. But then we throw in the twist of upset alert. And you can do one of two things. You can either pick an underdog to cover, or you can pick an underdog to outright win. The catch is that the spread has to be at least 2.5 points. You can't pick a 1 point underdog. That wouldn't even really work necessarily. If you predict them to just cover, you get 3 points if they do. If you predict them to outright win, you get 3 points plus however many points the spread was. So you can take some big swings, but the bigger a swing you take, you can actually lose points. So getting your upset alert right or wrong is crucial to this point system.
Absolutely. And that's shown to be the case.
Yes.
So really, we're talking about what, 2 weeks here? So where are we at? Where are we at with this?
Adam, you have 68 points.
Nice.
I have 67 points.
Suck it, loser. Why? What happened? Was it the week before? I feel like I got
It was
one
the
more
week
matchup
before. It was one of my worst weeks yet, but then last week was my best week yet. You had a
Really?
fantastic week too, but yeah, I had 14 points last week.
Did you?
Uh,
And did I have 13?
you had 13. Yep.
Yep, that's what it
So
is.
you had 11 points in week 5 versus my 9. And then last week I had 14, you had 13.
There we go. Yeah, so we're neck and neck still. We're neck and neck.
Neck
And
and
one thing
neck.
we've definitely figured out, the first 2 weeks, I went on a crazy run and had a huge head start over Jonathan. But really, we were pretty similar in terms of what predictions we got right. It was just that I was right with my 2 upset alerts to start the year. Jonathan was wrong. The next 2 weeks, I was wrong and he was right. And then he tied it up. And so these final 2 weeks, we've been neck and neck. And so that's why.
Neck and neck. I
But
just
that
want to
being
go ahead and
said,
preface
I'm
this
still
now.
dominating you. Yeah.
You are dominating me with your 1-point lead. I'm not looking forward to this because I have a prediction here that's so dirty that I feel legitimate shame. I'll just go
Okay.
ahead and say that now.
Okay.
Little teaser for the folks at home.
Okay. So this is a hard week. I was looking at these matchups and I was like,
It is.
yikes.
It
This
is.
is a tough one.
We can start off a relative chronological order with the Thursday night football. Your team,
Yeah,
Steelers
Cincinnati
at the Bengals.
So this is, I saw Cam Hayward called it the icy hot bowl because Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco are going at it. So like I said, I had a hard time picking an upset alert. So I actually picked this one. I'm picking the Bengals to win.
Whoa.
Okay. Here's why. Well, okay. So this is, I hate
What's
this.
the spread on that?
5.5.
Okay.
I don't feel good about this because I feel like I'm getting sucked in. But man, there was just something about the second half Bengals in that Green Bay game that really just moved me. I just feel like
Flacco has some energy. Flacco
He
always
did
brings
some-
energy.
Here's the thing. So in the first half, Zach Taylor was like, we're going to run the ball to establish the pass. He's done this before this year. It's stupid and idiotic whenever you consider the context of who the Bengals are. Then again, in the second half, Zach Taylor said, we're going to try to throw the short ball. And it worked. It 100% works. Now, to be fair, Dre Hendrickson went out. Our defense went to crap. So we ended up losing the game. But like up until that point, our defense was playing really good and our offense played terribly, but then all of a sudden turned it around. Joe Flacco started having a connection with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins. And I think that this concept of get the ball out quickly, right? Like quickly get the ball out, short intermediate yard,
Which is something that Flacco knows how to do, and
yards after
just
catch
by his age knows that he has to do, or else he's going to die.
Right. It's one of those things where it's like the only thing Joe Flacco can do, and we never talked about this because we missed recording last year. I was somewhat optimistic about this signing, because it shows that the Bengals are doing something, which gives me more confidence in the fact that they'll fire Zach Taylor if nothing comes about of this. But the second thing is that it's one of those things where the only thing Joe Flacco can do is exactly what the Bengals need to do.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there watching the second half of the Bengals game after just the worst offense I've seen. and looking and seeing that Joe Flacco is making quick decisions. He's not getting, he's gaining yards on first down, making it late down scenarios, manageable situations. He's throwing accurate balls. That touchdown pass to Jamar Chase was incredible, right? Like, if we can continue that style of offense, now here's the kicker. Zach Taylor is known, right? And I know this firsthand, to have a really good offensive game plan that seems sustainable and then immediately go back to something that's stupid. So maybe there's a world where on Thursday night we go back to, let's run the ball to establish everything, and then we'll get the deep ball going. And we're going to get out to a start that sucks so hard that there's like nothing we can do. But there's also this world where we continue off of the second half and we keep it a close game, or maybe even we dominate the Steelers. It's a fluky divisional game. It's in Cincinnati. I'm going with the Bengals.
3 things. That sounds like a lot. One, because you mentioned firing Zach Taylor, the Titans are officially my
Yes,
for firing Brian Callahan before Mike McDaniels could be fired by the Dolphins. I'm ticked off about that. Number 2, I'm scared because this is one of those weird ones where I entirely feel like you could be right about this. And that's 8 points for you right there by the rules if you win. 3, because it's a short week, Zach Taylor might not have a chance to overthink.
Yeah, true.
Which is something that I feel like he's prone to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. All of those things, the second 2 really, not the last 2 really, not the first one. The first one
firing has nothing to do with what we're talking about here.
Nothing to do at all. Just a complete tangent. But all of that being said, I am picking the Steelers, but I'm really scared.
I'm just saying that I just feel like I could see this situation where Joe Flacco has an efficient, like 250-yard passing game.
Yeah. That's entirely on the table.
And the thing is like, he has the weapons. And, Joe Flacco was talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and he was like, I've just never seen receivers who are able to just pluck the ball out of the air. He was like, I threw this one catch to T. Higgins. It was like an out route, and most guys would fall down and catch it with their body, and T. Higgins just plucked it. And that touchdown to Jamar Chase, where it just hit him right in the chest between 2 defenders. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins don't need a lot of room to make explosive plays. And so, quick pass. And, honestly, Yosavash had 2 drops that were incredibly impactful. Like, I'm just saying, I feel like there's this world where we can have, like, Joe Flacco can be really an elevated version of what Mac Jones was in that Rams win. And our defense can do just enough.
Okay. All right. You've sold me on your vision. I'm going to go Steelers here, but you've sold me.
Yeah.
Rams at Jaguars. I thought about this for quite a while. I will go and let you know, I decided on the Rams. I think this is a little couple week stretch where the Jaguars return back to earth. The offense still throughout the entire season has never at any point instilled confidence, even in their, marquee win against the Chiefs. It was really only done from a 99-yard pick 6. And so this is one of those games where, once again, the Jaguars are a little bit stagnant. Like, the Rams probably only need 21 points to win this game, and I think they can do that.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. The one thing I'll say is that Liam Cohen has looked incredible and has provided such an incredible offensive scheme. The biggest issue with their offense is simply Trevor Lawrence at times just doesn't know how to operate within it. And so, I think against a good young defense of the Rams, and then of course, just Matthew Stafford, I think will outball Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going with the Rams as well.
All righty. Saints at Bears. We're continuing the streak, I assume.
I'm going with Bears, which is crazy to think about. Is that the Bears? What's their record right now? 3-2?
Yes, 3-2. I want to say, because they had a bye week.
Yeah, they did.
Yep, 3-2.
Yeah, they're 3-2. 4-2 is looking crazy. That's
4-2
crazy.
is looking crazy, but it's pretty obvious
It's against the
because
Saints.
once again, we are never going to pick the Saints to win. Even though they
Mm-mm.
did pick up a win, they will never be picked.
Yeah.
Dolphins at Browns. What are your thoughts, Adam?
That's my thoughts. Oh my gosh, dude. I'm picking the Browns.
Adam,
Is this your upset alert?
I
was
told
thinking
you,
about it. I
I
was
feel
thinking about it.
so dirty about this.
I was thinking
I
about it.
feel I'm like crouching in on myself right now. I'm like recoiling in shame. But the Dolphins are 3-point underdogs to Dylan Gabriel.
Can
And
I tell you something?
I'm just gonna be a greedy little boy. I can't pass it up, even though I swore that I would not want to pick the Dolphins to win this season. But I need these points, brother. The
This
Dolphins win
is
this game
this
outright.
is not a good move for you, man.
I
I'm
know it
very
isn't.
confident in the Browns.
I think so too, but I I just got a sense about this game.
Here's the thing. The Browns defense, like Myles Garrett is going to terrorize Tua. Like Tua's going to start having flashbacks.
Yeah,
Like
and
he's going to start having
the Dolphins can win this game with 10 points.
No. The Dolphins defense sucks so hard. Like the reason
I
why I'm
know.
saying this is tough is because the Browns' only strengths are the exact weaknesses that the Dolphins have to a point, and it's not just like, oh, this is a weakness. It's like this is the worst in the league. Like they are the
No.
worst team in the league at stopping the
I
run.
know.
They are the
No
worst,
one's
one of
no
the worst
one's
teams in the
point.
league. Like okay,
I
I get
told
it. It's the
you.
Browns. It's the Browns. They could make any team look good
But
at
but
any given
but
week in
it's
the
not
last like 100
just
years.
like, oh, it's the Browns and they're favored. Like I kind of said that as a bit against like Dylan Gabriel is being favored by 3 points. But I just have a sense this game that like this is one of these stupid games. It's more so building off of how mad I am that the Titans fired Brian Callahan and Brian Callahan became the first fired and not Mike McDaniels. Then on top of that, the Dolphins are going to win a game this week and people are going to start acting like Mike McDaniel's seat isn't that hot. Like I'm projecting into the future and seeing that narrative and it's ticking me off, but I'm also going to ride its coattails for points.
Here's the thing. I just don't see it happening. I think that the Dolphins, again, like Quishon Judkins can go for like 300 yards. Like Dylan Gabriel doesn't have to do anything. And like
No.
and in terms of the Browns have an incredible defense. Like if there's one thing that they have, it's a great defense. I'm picking the Browns. I could see it happening because they're the Browns. It's in Cleveland as well. I don't know, man. I think you're kind of. I'm happy you made this pick because I really do not see this going the Dolphins' way.
That's fair. I don't really either. That's why I feel such shame.
But the truth is, here's what I will tell you: to defenders, in your defense, there were no games this week that I felt good about picking an upset alert. Which is the reason I picked the Bengals was just because I'm like they're my team. Like let me just let bias. You know what
You
I mean?
essentially
Like
did the exact opposite of me, which is you were like, I'm just going to be an optimist and pick my team. And I was just like, I'm going to go against all of the
everything I
principles
believe
that
in.
everything I believe in. I'm an apostate.
Oh my gosh. All right. Next we got Panther or no, what do we have next? Because I was looking at FanDuel.
Raiders at Chiefs.
Raiders at Chiefs. You ready for this?
Yeah.
I'm picking the Chiefs. Never saw it.
Holy cow, brother. I am as well. Rashi Rice is back. Let's get him warmed up, get him integrated into the system. I'm not saying that because he's black. You know, the league has been integrated for a long time.
No one thought you were saying that for that reason.
I just wanted to make sure. Eagles at Vikings.
Eagles at Vikings. This is tough. It's not that tough. I'm taking the Eagles, but this
Yeah,
is the
this is
last chance, is what I'll say.
that sounds very ominous, but I get entirely what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick the Eagles as well. And picking the Eagles the last 2 weeks has burned me out of
Yeah,
what
me
I
too.
thought
That's
were
what I'm saying. That's
basically
what I'm
3
saying. Like,
points.
it's the last
So
chance.
yeah, no, for more reasons than one, yes, but I'm not gonna pick the Eagles to lose 3 in a row. They are too talented to do that. If they do, it's a serious,
Yeah, it's tough.
code red.
Yeah. All right.
Panthers at Jets.
This is good. I lied. It's Panthers. This is not going to be a good game. I lied. Everything. Yeah, no.
I really wanted to psych myself out into picking the Panthers, and I don't feel good about picking the Panthers because
Yeah,
this
me
is
too.
totally a game that the Panthers could lose. Like
Mhm.
there's a world in which the Jets could win this game by like 2 touchdowns. That's entirely on the table.
It's true. It's true. Bryce Young
Like
could
a
just like throw
winless
3
team.
interceptions.
Yeah, Bryce Young could throw in 3 interceptions. Justin Fields has like a 50-yard rushing touchdown with like 175 passing yards, and yeah, I'm gonna pick the Panthers. This was almost my upset alert, and I
Yeah,
actually
me
would
too.
feel way better if it was.
All right, next game.
Patriots at Titans.
Whew. Do we give them, they just fired their head coach? There's a little bit of bump there.
I'm too mad
No,
at them to do that.
we
No.
don't, because Vrabel is coming back with vengeance. This is clearly
Yeah.
the Patriots are going to
I
dominate.
when I was thinking about this game, not that I thought about it for that long. That's probably why I wasn't even thinking of this as the return home. Yeah,
Yeah,
Patriots by 1,000,000.
they're going to dominate. What?
Giants.
Quick side note. Cam Ward has been playing good.
Not wrong. Not wrong. Which makes
Anyway.
it even weirder that Brian Callahan gets fired.
Yeah, I think that was absolute malpractice. It didn't make any sense to me, but we can
Doesn't
keep
make
going.
any sense. Giants at Broncos. What are we thinking? Giants tried a hot streak?
Man, dude, this was also another one that I almost made my upset alert.
The Broncos,
it's one of those things.
It is. They may be not that they are the worst, but of teams that are 4-2, they have looked the worst this season.
Yeah,
and yet
Bo Nix has looked so bad.
But he's looked so bad, and so like we're all of a sudden a third of the way into the season, we've seen both sides of the spectrum, and it's kind of coalesced into a we were both right, which is that I have been 100% right about having so little faith in Bo Nix, and you've been 100% right about it not really mattering.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, no, that's true.
That's kind of what it's been.
Where are you going?
I do have to go Broncos. It's at the Broncos, and I don't have Jackson Dart. This is the best defense he'll play of his very young career. This being his 3rd game. This will be the best defense he's faced yet. There's a world in which he turns the ball over like 2 times.
Yeah. Right now, the Broncos are on pace to have the most sacks in NFL history of a single team. I think that the shenanigans, and I don't want to sound like an old head or like an unk or whatever, but the shenanigans of Jackson Dart's football play have been like, those are not going to work against a defense as incredible as the Broncos defense.
Not at all.
Is so, and I said it right. They are so good. They are the best defense in the league. They're not going to let that slide. Like they're not going to let that slide. I'm sure Scatterboo is going to play well. No, I actually don't. I think he's going to get a crap ton of carries and play inefficiently. The more I think about it, the more I'm convincing myself that the Broncos might win a 10-7 game. That being said, I don't know why I didn't pick this as my upset alert. The Broncos are favored by 7 points.
I actually feel totally fine about that. I think the Broncos probably cover this
I don't
game.
know. I just could see a similar situation to this last week, but we can move on. Next game.
Colts at Chargers. All of a sudden, a very big game for like seeding and tie breaking,
Yeah,
and
this is tough, dude. Joe Alt is
the
probably might
Chargers.
might come back.
Chargers have been on the downturn, but this seems like one of those games. If I'm gonna stay consistent with my Chargers take, which from a take consistency, I want to, but just like selfishly as a Chiefs fan, I don't. I think this is a game where the Chargers come back in, they plant the flag and be like, "Oh, Colts are 5-1." Like, no, we win this. I'm not saying that it's handedly or anything like that, but I have the Chargers here in a tough one.
The thing is that the Chargers, like, I just feel like the Colts, just like they could just beat the Chargers at their own game. And so that's why it's tough for me. That being said, the Chargers are getting some important pieces back.
I will
And
point out, we haven't, except for Dolphins Browns, we have not differed once. No. You picked Bengals outright. So our upsets
yeah,
alert have been different.
yeah. Like, I think I'm going with the Colts. I think I'm sticking with it. I just think that they're
Six
like
and
Lou
one.
Anarumo is going to be able to, in the second half, dial some stuff. Like, I think he can still do that. And I just believe in the efficiency of that offense. The Chargers are missing a Marion Hampton. Even though Joe Alt is back, they're still missing a lot of depth on that offensive line. I don't know if Quentin Johnson is going to play, but Lad McConkey is obviously there. I just think that the Colts have, you know, they just have enough in them and they can play efficient football and get this win.
Do it, brother. You're taking the
I'm
Colts.
picking the Colts.
Packers at Cardinals.
Dude, your Cardinals take is aging like milk.
Okay, I deserve that because I've been right on a lot of my other takes. The Cardinals one is looking worse and worse. And to be clear, they were not a playoff pick of mine.
True, but like,
I can hold on to that, but
yeah.
it's tough.
Anyway, I'm going Packers.
I'm going Packers as well.
All right, what's next?
Commanders at Cowboys.
I'm going Commanders. What are you going?
I'm going Cowboys.
Okay.
I think that, I don't know. I'm middling on the Commanders and the Cowboys. And I think in this game, I'm going to say that Dak Prescott plays better than Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I think that Jane Daniels, after a tough game, like first week back after 2 weeks gone, I think he's just going to play well. And then I think that the defense it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think Dak Prescott could play better than Jane Daniels, but that offense could still put up like 40 points.
You're not wrong. I don't feel good about it, but I just have this vibe. This is one of those games where it's like the rest of the NFC East beats up on itself, and it's how the Eagles end up winning the division, even though they're going to have a bunch of strife. And so this is kind of part of a narrative type take, not because of any one specific thing I see in this game. Falcons at 49ers.
This is hard for me because I feel like the Falcons are that team that just flip-flops back and forth between like good and terrible. But I'm going the Falcons.
I'm going the Falcons here for the simple reason that of the 6 highest paid players on the 49ers, 5 of them are out.
Yeah, no, poor shout out to Fred Warner, best linebacker in the league. Hope he gets well soon.
I mean, I don't think he's going to get well soon. He's out for the season, but
yeah, true. I guess I meant like soon relative to what the injury was. This is not a laughing matter, Jonathan. It's our GOAT.
That is our GOAT. I'm really sorry, Fred.
Poor Fred. Friend of the show. Come on the show.
R.I.P.
Since you have all this time.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
Insensitive? My bad.
Buccaneers at Lions. Great
Ooh,
game.
this is a great game. I just got really giddy.
I know. I can't wait for this.
What do you think?
I the precedent of them beating them in Detroit last season, which is really weird that you play a non-divisional opponent back-to-back years
Yeah.
on the road. That's like a really weird scheduling thing that almost never happens, but it does make for fantastic football. I have a hard time seeing them going into Detroit and winning in back-to-back seasons, just from a really far out view. Uh, but the injuries to Detroit's secondary, man,
And now they're missing Branch for a game
they're
because
missing
he
Branch
decided
for a
to
game.
punch Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, a joke. But we're also predicting this on Tuesday, so we don't know how it's going to look game time. We're predicting this
True.
this isn't some Friday night prediction where we pretty much know, with the exception of maybe like one game time decision. I am going to go Buccaneers, though.
Really? Dang it, I am too.
This week is entirely going to be our upsets alert, and I hate that for me.
But it really is. There's like 3 games.
But we
Yeah.
both picked outright winners, so if we both lose, and since we've lined up so much on everything else, if this week goes poorly, well, I mean, we could, but like a 6-point week for both of us is on the table.
Oh yeah. I'm going, dude, it really is the difference. The difference in this game is just the secondary. And like I know, and we're gonna, later tonight, I mean, we'll talk about it. In a future episode, we're gonna talk about this. Buccaneers are missing a lot of their offensive weapons, and it just hasn't mattered. I could see
One,
this
it
being
hasn't
a
mattered,
shootout.
and just in the specifics of this game, I feel like the hypothetical Detroit injuries basically even that out. And then
Yeah.
I'm taking Baker Mayfield
Over Jared Goff. Yeah, I don't hate it. But then it's one of those things where it's like, I think this is going to be a close game. And in a close game, I'm picking Tampa Bay. I
Yeah,
also could see a
100%.
world, if this is a blowout, it's the Lions. Like, I could see this being like a 40-30 Lions victory, which isn't a blowout, but like, you know what I mean? Like a shootout where it's like, yeah, like the Lions scored on every drive and the Buccaneers were stopped twice.
Yeah. I mean,
it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it will be a fantastic game. Our last game, the second Monday Night Football game, Texans at Seahawks.
I'm going Seattle.
Okay, so we are different. I'm going Houston.
Okay.
I'm going Houston for the simple reason that I think this is a week where, with the Jaguars losing, making them lose back-to-back weeks, and then the Texans get this, and all of a sudden it's now a complete race again. Obviously, Colts are ahead, not really by a mile, but relative to early season, they've got a pretty hefty lead. But this is where the South opens back up again, especially because I have the Chargers winning this week. I feel like this is a week where, in just a singular week, the AFC South condenses at the very top. And I know I've been saying this for weeks now, but Sam Darnold can't be that good. I'll go to my grave. Sam Darnold could win the MVP at some point in his career, and I'll go to the grave saying that he is not that good of a quarterback.
If Mike McDonald and that young defense was able to generate a scheme that allowed for 7 sacks against Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars offensive line, CJ Stroud is going to be an absolute hell. Like,
I don't disagree. I see this being a turnover margin game. You're not wrong.
I just can't overlook that.
It's not overly simplistic analysis. It's probably the correct analysis. I'm banking on a turn. You're banking on sacks and CJ Stroud having no time. I'm banking on a turnover margin going
I understand.
Houston's way.
The other thing I'll say is that, like, first, and Mike, or no, oh my gosh, what's the Vikings coach?
Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell is the quarterback whisperer. It's so funny. I saw this interview where it was Daniel Jones just talking about his time with the Vikings, and watching Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold, and just like, yeah, in the few weeks that I was there, they totally changed my perspective on the quarterback position and how I should prepare for games. And that's why I'm so successful this year. Which is
It
both
is
an
something else.
indictment on the Giants and obviously a big praise for Kevin O'Connell. Like, and now we see it with Sam Darnold, where even after he left, he doesn't even just like, get a, if you're a quarterback who's struggling, get a cup of coffee with Kevin O'Connell and you'll turn into the most efficient quarterback you could be.
Yeah. I mean, he could probably make bank off of running a QB camp in the offseason for like
I'm
high
sure he could.
schoolers.
I'm sure he could.
I think he's doing fine for money, but if he wanted
Yeah.
to.
But anyway, so this is going to be a scary week. Can't wait to see how it plays out. To end this episode off, Jonathan, give me a player whose highlights the audience should watch.
In memoriam, watch Fred Warner highlights.
We've talked about it. We've said that before. Do it again.
Do it again.
You can't get enough. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Follow, like, all of the different things. We really appreciate you. I hope you like what we had to say, and if you didn't, tell us in the comments so we can get engagement from it.
Have a good one, folks.
All right, peace.